Morning, guys. So I'm here in Skopje now. It's been almost a week. I'm here. I'm working on my on the editing. It's completely crazy. It's been like 5 days. It's raining almost continuously for 5 days. That's nuts. And it's the weather forecast says it's gonna rain. It's gonna be like that for one more week. So well, I'll try to find a window to escape. But before escaping, let's go in the city center and see a little bit what Skopje looks like. There are a few interesting stories to tell you about this country, about North Macedonia. The first thing is the main thing actually is the name of the country, Macedonia. The name Macedonia comes from the kingdom of Alexander the Great, which was 2,500 years ago. Philip II of Macedon was the king of Macedonia, and when he died, Alexander the Great took the throne, inherited the throne, and then went into huge campaigns to conquer most of Persia, Egypt, and all the way to the Indus River in India, where it's nowadays Pakistan, but it's Indian culture. The Indus River is the origin of Indian culture. He also conquered like parts of Central Asia, like Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, all those areas. That's the names of the countries of nowadays. But he conquered all those areas basically. And the thing is that when Alexander the Great conquered all this part of the world, well, he brought Hellenistic culture to these places. So the Macedonians were speaking Greek. And the original region of Macedonia, where actually Alexander the Great, where the heart of the kingdom of Alexander the Great, where it all started, where Philip of Macedon had his kingdom, was in nowadays northern Greece. And here in where I am now, in North Macedonia, in the country of nowadays, it was a kingdom called something else. Then this region of Skopje and what is called nowadays North Macedonia ended up being called Macedonia only during Roman times, so like 500 years after Alexander the Great, after Alexander the Great's existence. You will see. So now we are heading to the city center of Skopje. And what's actually funny there is that in the city center, in order to create a national identity, a logical national identity according to the name, well then, recently actually, I think in 2014 they told me, the government has built, wait, there's too much noise here. Yeah, in 2014, the government of Macedonia has built a huge statue in the city center, a huge statue of Alexander the Great and Philip II of Macedon. And it's quite funny actually. I find it weird. It's funny because actually those people are not from here at all. I mean, it's just the name the name of the place is linking those guys to here, but those guys were speaking Greek. Here it's a Slavic culture, and they were not even from here geographically. So it's kind of funny. I find it funny. Let's go to the city center, because anyway, in the end what I like here is that actually I love Alexander the Great. So let's go to see him. It's an interesting thing to see, at least in the city center of Skopje, to see Alexander the Great, his father, and there is also another sculpture. And it's a very nice city also because, well, you can see, well, you have all you can see now, there is a lot of kind of communist architecture, of course, because it was part of Yugoslavia. But it's a city of statues also. So there are a lot of statues in the city center. So even though there are a lot of flaws in the way this country is trying to grab the Macedonian history of the antiquity, It still makes, I mean, because of that, Skopje is quite interesting, because you can see in the city a lot of things linked to great parts of European history, actually, because well, the history of the Greeks is the history of the foundation of Europe, of the start of Europe. That's where all the European thinking comes from. It all comes from the Greeks. So even here, it's a land that was conquered by the Slavic tribes in the 5th century or something like that, 5th or 6th century. It's very interesting, the fact that there is now a display of antiquity in the city of Skopje. So let's go to see the first thing I want to show you, which is a story I love about antiquity. So, well, actually, first, let's see those lions. The beautiful lions of Skopje. So I am arriving at the other side of the bridge with the lion there, and on this side there is a more modern lion. But what interests me is the sculpture down there. So you can see the more kind of, they say baroque, I don't know, that's a weird lion. But what interests me is that's the first link to the antiquity here in, oh, I stepped in a puddle. The antiquity here, so you can see the son, Alexander the Great, and Diogenes. If you don't know the story, basically this sculpture refers to a story of a famous story in Greek philosophy. Is that Diogenes? So he's the founder he was a cynical. He's the founder of the school of the Cynics, I think, something like that. If that's how you call it in English. And Diogenes lived at the same time as Alexander the Great. I'm gonna move away because there is too much noise with the cars here. Yeah, Diogenes lived at the same time as Alexander the Great, and the story says that at some point Alexander the Great went to visit Diogenes because, well, Diogenes was famous for living in a barrel. He was living almost naked outside, not at all well dressed like on the sculpture, but he was a dirty beggar, I would say, but still a philosopher. But he was a philosopher also, not a dirty beggar, but a dirty tramp, and a philosopher as well. So Alexander the Great went to see him because everybody was talking about this Diogenes, this philosopher living in a barrel, and when Alexander the Great, so with his, you know, the great king, the guy who, because first from Macedonia he conquered Athens, so he conquered Greece, and then he went on to conquer the Anatolia, well, modern day Turkey, and then all the way to Iran and that. But first, so when he went to see Diogenes, while everybody was, you know, it's the great emperor, so everybody was very kind with and polite with Alexander, and Diogenes just told him, "Get out of my son." So that's why on the sculpture you have the son, Alexander the Great, and Diogenes, because Diogenes was just so rude to Alexander and told him, "Get out of my son." And what's even more funny is that, well, the story says that, well, Alexander the Great could have just killed him, basically, because he had the power to do so, and he was insulted by Diogenes. But then Alexander the Great left, and he said, "If I was not me, I would want to be Diogenes." So that's the story about this culture, which I love. So it's good because this culture leads me to show you the statues in the right order. So now I am arriving at one part of the city center, so you can see beautiful statues of horses, some popes, And there the statues of so that's statues of mothers of Macedonia, they call it. And there the big statue, just in front of the entrance of the bazaar, is the statue of the father of Alexander the Great, Philip II of Macedon. So basically this guy, Philip II of Macedon, was assassinated when Alexander was 20 years old. So that's why Alexander inherited the throne very young. And probably that's why he went on all these. Well, his father, he had the plan. Philip of Macedon had the plan on going on invade Anatolia and Persia, but probably as he was much older, he was not gonna go as far as Alexander. But he was assassinated when his son was 20 years old. So his son got the throne, and he had the energy to accomplish the plan of his father, and even beyond it. And so let's cross this old stone bridge to see the big statue of Alexander. So there you can see Alexander. So one thing is funny actually here also is like they can't call it Alexander, they call him the warrior, because basically Greece is blocking any reference to Alexander, because Greece says Alexander was Greek, which kind of makes sense because Alexander was a Greek speaker, even though his kingdom was called Macedonia and not Greece, and he conquered Greece. But anyway, so you can see the sculpture, the big statue, and it's funny because all those statues, these ones and those behind, and those there, if you can see there, Philip of Macedon, they look old, but they are very new. They are less than 10 years old. Yeah, I think it's great that this country is celebrating the history of antiquity. It gets people to know more about great European history. But it's also funny and interesting to see how in modern days, for political reasons, for personal profit actually, or for cultural profit, people love to rewrite history actually, because that's a little bit what's happening here as basically we are in Skopje, in the capital city of the country called North Macedonia, and the country, you see, the biggest square of the country is celebrating Alexander the Great, which is someone who was not from here. So it's a kind of way of rewriting history, to me, to create a national identity. Well, I guess that's a lot of talking. So that's probably that will be probably it for this video. I mean, the bazaar is nothing special. It's very modern shops. It's just the buildings are shorter than usual European buildings. That's it. So here you can see the flag, Macedonian flag with Alexander the Great. Actually, it's great to see there. I love the fact that you can see the great statue of Alexander the Great in the city center of the Republic of North Macedonia.